It's live now.
All right.
All
Hey,
right.
how's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Sinister the Gamer section bringing you another interview with it. I know it's been a while, but hey, you know, better late than never. But so, anyways, before I introduce our guest, hey, be sure if you're going to enjoy this interview with the dev, hey, be sure to share it out, drop us a like, comments, things like that. But other than that, I'm gonna let our guest introduce himself.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Bashir Kashalo, the Manliest developer. I'm currently developing Dimensional Slaughter, and that's my main project at the moment.
All right.
It's a retro-styled first-person movement shooter roguelite thing. Currently
All
on
right.
Steam for early access, only on PC right now. Other platforms probably sometime in the future.
All right. All right. Before we dive in any further, it's like, hey, like, anybody want to drop any questions? Like, just drop it in the chat. So anybody that's rolling through. So, all right. First things first. What got you into gaming?
So here's the deal. I started gaming originally when I was around maybe 6 years old. I started with things like Wii Fishing and Wii Sports and whatnot. Um, then later, my dad bought me New Super Mario Bros. For the Wii, and I loved it. I spent like probably 100 hours on that game. I loved it so much, and I think that's why I really started playing video games. I think so. Eventually, we got a PS3, and then I started playing games like Little Big Planet and Minecraft. I really like Minecraft. From there on, I started playing shooters like Call of Duty and Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Uh, and I really, yeah, my first introduction to this genre of boomer shooters was around when I was 9 years old. I first saw Doom 2016 back when it
Uh-huh.
was like first revealing. Back when it was first revealed. I played the demo and I loved it. Unfortunately, my dad did not let me buy the full game. It was just too violent for me at the time.
Uh-huh.
However, I managed to play it on my own once I got my gaming laptop at around 13 years old.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. How you doing, Clayton Scoop? All right. Did you have like any other favorite games besides those two?
Uh, yeah, those aren't my favorite games at all. Those are just games I played. My favorite games. It's really hard to pick the top. It's really hard to pick the top one, but I can give you maybe a top three or top five.
Yeah, that
I'd
that's fine.
say I love Doom Eternal.
Right.
I really like Sonic Mania and Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I like Minecraft. I think Elden Ring is pretty great, even though I've only played it for like 100 hours compared to other
Right.
people who've gone to like 500 hours.
You're right.
But I really like Elden Ring so far. I think those would probably be around my favorite games. Maybe Ultra Kill.
Okay.
Of course, my own games too, but I don't think I'm allowed to say those. That's egotistical.
All right. And it says Clayton says based. Well, okay.
I can't actually read the comments.
You're right.
I'm just hope if there's any questions, you better tell me.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah. Just like I stated earlier, if you got any questions for the dev, just drop it in the comments. I'll be sure to read them out. All right. Just going any further. When did Dimensional Starter come about? How did you come up with the idea?
So this is kind of a hard question. It kind of ties into how I got into game development in the first place.
Uh-huh.
It's gonna be kind of long.
Right.
Uh, so I started with Doom 2016,
Mm-hmm.
and I fell in love with the genre. The thing I liked most was probably the very aggression based combat. You know, it's just fast paced. Like your
Right.
main method of healing is by killing others. You got to keep moving all the time. I loved it. At the time, I'd only know Call of Duty and Battlefield and whatnot, and this is like it opened my eyes. It was amazing.
Right.
Uh, and later when Doom Eternal released, I played that, and it was so much better. I loved it so much. I thought Doom 2016 was peak. Doom Eternal was peak.
Right.
All right. And from there on, I started to build kind of an obsession with the genre. I started getting into games like Ultra Kill and Dusk.
Right.
Uh, and from there on, I started dreaming of making my own games. Uh, Especially, I was inspired by the fact that the last two games I mentioned, Ultra Kill and Dusk, were made by mostly one developer. I know Ultra Kill a bit less; it has like three developers from what I know.
All
But
right.
I know I found it really inspiring, and I thought, hey, I bet I could make a video game. I started trying to make Doom mods, and I tried making mods for other games like Sonic 3 and Knuckles. And later on, I started actually handling Unity. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. Around this time,
Right.
I'd also been finding myself very much into Sonic.
Okay.
Older Sonic games like Sonic 1, 2, 3, Knuckles Mania.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, because those are my favorite. Like the top three, first three.
yeah, I love those games. They're actually so good.
Right.
Uh, one of the things I really liked about it was like the way the levels were handled. They were like they're colorful. They all have these themes, right? And they're
Yes.
skill based, and they're very short. You can beat them in around 3 minutes or so.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it's kind of built around the idea of you speedrunning it. Thing is, like if you die, right, you kind
Yeah.
of have to restart the entire game. The game is meant to be beaten in about an hour, but only if you're good.
Yeah.
And that's like where the replay value comes in. You know, it's very replayable. Also, like ways to beat a level.
Yeah.
I love that, and I just thought it was awesome. And I don't know, I really liked it. I don't know, I just developed an obsession with it for some reason.
Yeah, because
Did it continue?
oh yeah, because like after I saw your little trailer, it's like yeah, because I got the Doom and vibes in there. I was like, yep.
Yeah,
And the way it was played, but of course, I grew up on Doom and Wolfenstein, like the old school ones, like on the old school PC, and the way just taking out bad guys, you see their bloody bodies everywhere, and of course moving on with the old school Doom, and like all those imps, like shooting those fireballs, and just it's nothing like picking up the shotgun and just blast them to pieces,
yeah, I know. I love the violence and the speed of those games. I also did end up playing games like Doom 1 and beating them.
Right.
You know, the originals. I don't know. I just really like the genre, even though I wasn't there for the retro era. I was born in the mid 2000s, so I'm
Oh,
way
okay.
younger than most other people who play retro games.
Right.
I kind of really like the aesthetic. I like how they are. I just like the violence. I like the speed. I don't know. Something about it speaks to me. Also around this time, another game I liked was Post Void. It's a small little boom shoot game, but it's really intense. It's made of these very short, randomly generated levels, and
Uh-huh.
the entire game can beat me in like 10 minutes,
Right.
but only if you're good enough. It's really hard. It's really intense. And eventually, when I decided to actually, try my hand at Unity, I thought, you know what? I want to make a game that's kind of like a mix of those things. I want to get the level speed and intensity of Post Void, the level system and complexity of wait, damn it, I messed up my wording. Sorry.
It's
I
okay.
wanted the
It's okay.
I wanted the intensity of Post Void, level system of Sonic, and the complexity of games like Doom Eternal, and I wanted it inside like a boomer shooter package. And
Mhm.
I found out later that having the same levels got very boring because you die so much,
Yes.
and if you're playing the exact same levels over and over again, it's just not that fun. And so I decided to start making them randomly generated. They're not randomly generated. I hand make a bunch of layouts, and then the layout is chosen on its own, and other parts are procedurally generated, like the enemy waves. From there, the rest is history. I started with that very tiny vision. The game was supposed to be beaten in like an hour or half an hour. Very simple, completely random. Like the levels, the dimensions weren't even supposed to have like an order to them. You just
All
play
right.
and go in and keep going until you die. And
Okay.
from there on, I started escalating heavily. Decided, okay, I'm going to give it an ending. I'm going to give it a middle point. I'm going to give it actual progression. I'm going to add cutscenes to it. I'm going to add characters to it. And here we are.
All right. Well, Clean Scoop has a question, and I'm sure you pretty much already answered, but I'm sure you probably can elaborate a little bit more. But what he was asking, what was your biggest influence in development of Dimensional Slaughter?
So, as I mentioned earlier, I really liked Doom Eternal. I really liked Sonic, and I really liked Post Void. One I didn't mention was Ultra Kill. Ultra
Uh-huh.
Kill was also an inspiration, but not to the aspect, not to the extent that a lot of people think it was. Mainly the visuals. A lot of the ideas for that came from Ultra Kill,
Uh-huh.
and stuff like the slam jump idea. A couple of the parkour movement stuff came from Ultra Kill, but it's mostly Doom Eternal. No, it's mostly Doom Eternal, Sonic, and Post Void. Those are my main inspirations.
All right, all right. All right. Speaking of Unity, it's like when you came across it, did you find like it's challenging to use, or you just learn as you go until you
So,
got a feeling for it?
so I started back around winter break of 2022, I believe, and I'm gonna be honest, I learned Unity pretty quickly. Before that, I'd actually tried earlier, like say 6 months prior, and
Uh-huh.
I struggled and failed. I'd get like super tired of it. I didn't want to go with it anymore.
Right.
But this time around winter break of 2022, I had a lot more time to myself, and I was actually feeling determined this time. I had another game idea in my head that was before Dimensional Slaughter, and I really wanted to try that, but I wanted to make another game before it.
Uh-huh.
Which ended up being Dimensional Slaughter. So I got really motivated to make it, and I ended up learning Unity in like 2 weeks mainly. I followed this FPS tutorial. code an FPS in 3 hours or something like that. It really took me like 2-3 weeks, but I managed to get there pretty decently, and from there on I kept increasing my scope and learning more things. And so Unity was not that hard for me. No,
Okay.
there were some trials. I feel like the biggest hurdle is at the beginning. Once you get past that, it's easy.
All right. Yeah, because of course that was like one of my questions. Like, what was your biggest challenge in like developing Dimensional Slaughter?
Now that's hard. That's a hard question. You have to think about that. So I think the hardest part is marketing.
Right.
I love the game development part. That's like my favorite part.
Yeah. Right.
Um, I initially wanted to do something quick just for fun. But I
Uh-huh.
ended up developing kind of a passion for game development. And nowadays, like if I go a day or two without developing any of my games, I kind of I really want to go back to it. Like I spend like half my day thinking of ideas
Right.
and concepts and wanting to bring them to life. So yeah, I love that part. The main hardest part was marketing it, getting people to play my games.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, for example, I've had to spend a lot of time on Twitter trying to market my game, making little videos and whatnot, trying to think of how to make my game more marketable to people, and also listening to player feedback.
Right.
Players often have a lot of feedback that uh, isn't very clear, and it takes a long time to figure out finally how to fix it properly. But that part's all fun. The hardest part is marketing. The hardest part is
Right.
getting people to actually play your game and understand that it's not ultra kill.
All right. Hey, how's it going, Crown Peak? He has a question for you. But
Down peak, I know that person. He's my Discord server.
okay. Well, he said mainly is could you about the Sonic game you wanted to make? Uh,
Wait, can you repeat that?
I'm just gonna put what he's saying. It says mainly list. Could you about the Sonic game you wanted to make?
Can I talk? Can I talk more about it?
Yeah, sure.
I didn't actually want to make a Sonic game. No, I wanted to make games that are kind of like Sonic. An idea I had that I wanted to develop before Dimensional Slaughter that I ended up deciding I'll do it maybe afterwards or maybe never, depending on if I get the chance, if there's enough market for it. Wanted to make a game that's like so I already mentioned Dimensional Slaughter is kind of like a boomer shooter mixed with some Sonic elements, but those are different Sonic elements.
Right.
Those are like the level stuff about it. I've been considering making a game that's like it's like a boomer shooter but with Sonic elements, as in terms of movement,
Okay.
momentum-based gameplay, running on walls, running on ceilings, loop-de-loops,
Right.
stuff like that, and a lot of movement. Someday I'd like to actually pursue that project, but right now, not until I finish Dimensional Slaughter.
Right. Okay, Crown Peak. I see what you're. Yeah, he mentioned he forgot to put the word talking about.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we got what you're saying now. But as far as like Dimensional Slaughter, is there a story to it or a little plot? Without giving away too much.
Yeah, I can. So, in the tutorial level of Dimensional Slaughter, you find yourself in a portal kind of facility. It's like if you look at the walls, you'll see circuit boards and whatnot, and the
Uh-huh.
level name is called Portal Facility. It takes place inside like a massive supercomputer facility thing. It's actually a synonym for Quake's first level. Have you ever played Quake?
Yes.
So Quake's first level is called Slipgate Complex. Slipgate's a portal in that game.
Uh-huh.
Portal Facility, Slipgate Complex. It's the same thing. The idea that um, and then by the end of the level, you find yourself actually falling down the portal and into the strange dimensions, and now you're trying to escape, and it's really hard. I like to imagine the protagonist as like he's a badass. He's like a super soldier or something, but he's extremely stressed. He's like under constant threat of death. He just wants to get back home, but
Right.
people will not stop attacking him. He has no choice but to keep running and keep fighting for his life.
All the trauma.
And just yeah, across these dimensions that like make no sense to him. Like he finds himself in a world like that's been taken over by flesh.
Right.
Um, for example, a lot of stuff like that. Um, yeah, so basically the plot is pretty much just inspired by Quake, though. It's I played Quake and I really liked Quake. I didn't mention that earlier. I love it,
Yeah.
and I was just thinking about the plot. It's pretty cool. You play A as a guy who you go into a portal because things started happening,
Uh-huh.
and then you find yourself in dimensions, and then you try to kill things. You get your rune or whatever, And by the end of the game, you're like stuck inside the portals and you're just trying to find your way home. I think that's the lore from Quake Champions. I forgot where I got that lore from,
Right.
but the idea is that you're a guy who's stuck and can't find his way back home. Uh, this plot was made more bit more sense back when the game was supposed to be infinite.
Yeah.
It was just supposed to be you keep going until you die. Nowadays, I plan to have an actual ending. There's an actual midpoint and everything like that.
Uh-huh.
But back then it was just you just you just have to keep going, keep jumping into portals, and eventually you'll die.
Right. All right, Clean Scoop. He has another question for so. Were there any character inspirations for Habil and Kane?
Yes. So in case you don't know, because you're the guy, I assume you haven't played the game yet. Habil is the protagonist of Dimensional Slaughter. He's the red guy you see on the cover, punching the other dude. And Kane is the rival. He's voiced by Gianni Matragrano. He's like Habil but purple, and he's got an X on his face. He's a bit more badass.
Almost like the mark of Cain, huh?
Yeah. So there's a lot of inspirations behind those characters. It's hard to pick one, so I guess I'll just talk about all of them.
Okay.
So the main inspiration was I don't even know actually. I guess certain elements were just taken from different characters. Titanfall pilots were something that I looked at a lot. I really liked the markings they had on their helmets, and I decided, you know what, I want my character to be like that. The idea was I just wanted like a guy who's like a badass, who's like a super soldier or something,
like Captain America.
Like I guess, but a bit more armored. I wanted someone in full armor. The idea for that was like Batman or something. I just like big armored characters. I wanted him to have black armor like Batman because I like Batman. I wanted him to have a red color scheme because I just like red, and I felt it fit with the theme of Dimensional Slaughter. Dimensional Slaughter's color schemes, if you look at the logo, it's purple and red.
Also, it's almost like Bandito's colors.
Yeah, it's really hot in this room. And then other parts were inspired by other characters. Obviously, Doomslayer was a big inspiration.
Okay.
I ended up wanting to give him some sort of weapon for his fist. I noticed how Doomslayer had that. He had that blade like on his arm, right? It protrudes in Doom Eternal, and he like uses it to kill enemies with. It's pretty cool. I wanted something similar, and players were asking for a melee attack, and they were asking for a dash. And so, I don't know, I was thinking of ideas. I figured maybe like he has an axe or something. Eventually, I was watching Sonic 2, you know, the movie.
Yeah.
There's the scene where Sonic punches Robotnik, tries to, and then he gets intercepted by Knuckles. And before he like starts charging his fist with electricity, and he tries to go and punch Robotnik. I just thought that was awesome. I really like the electricity punch, and so I gave Habil his main ability is he's got an electric fist.
Right.
And you can use it. It works as a punch. It refills your ammo because people were asking for a way to refill ammo. They were asking for a dash, so it makes you dash 2 forward. And it's a good movement ability. It's a good attacking up ability. It's a good melee ability for when you have no more ammo and it refills your ammo. So cool. I guess that was the main inspiration for Habil. The thing with Habil is I didn't actually design him fully. I got this artist on Fiverr, Iqbal Mulana.
Okay.
I wanted someone to create promotional art for my game because I needed a protagonist and whatnot. I just needed promotional art because it's really hard to market a game with just screenshots.
Yeah.
And I needed a protagonist to work in it, and I thought, hey, you know, this guy, I bet he'd build me a good protagonist. He developed the initial idea of Habil. He didn't actually give him a name or anything. He just developed a guy in black armor, black and red sci-fi-ish armor for me. And then I ended up making alterations in the design over time. I gave him a name. I gave him the abilities. And Kane, I wanted someone to kick your ass. I figured, you know what, it would be really cool if at the beginning of the game someone kicks your ass and you just can't beat them, and then at the end of the game you come back to the same room or whatever. I don't know. At the end of the game you meet them again and you actually kick their ass this time because it's like you've progressed this much.
Right.
And I was usually just gonna think, okay, he's like a big soldier or something. He's just another one of the cannon fodder, but way bigger. And I was thinking of Shadow the Hedgehog. You know Shadow the Hedgehog?
Yeah.
He's like Sonic, but black and red.
Yeah, with that attitude.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's got a tragic backstory. He's more
Yep.
badass in general.
Yep.
I really wanted to create a Shadow-like character because I really love Shadow the Hedgehog, and so I thought, you know what, this is the perfect opportunity. I can have finally a rival that's like you but cooler, and then so when you finally kick their ass in the end, it feels like so good because like
Yes.
he's stronger than you. I guess inspirations for him, well, obviously I just mentioned Shadow the Hedgehog. He's like Sonic but cooler. Other inspirations, hmm, there was oh yeah, Sonic 2. Uh,
Yes.
I know it's another Sonic character, Knuckles.
Yes.
Knuckles is like Sonic, but better. He's way stronger, and Sonic spends the movie mostly running away from him until the end.
Yep.
And I don't know, I thought that was cool. The idea of a character who beats your ass, he's kind of like you but cooler, and you feel jealous of him. And then at the end of the game, you kill him or something like that,
Right.
and it feels
You got
euphoric.
your retribution.
Yes, and you finally like prove that you're not second place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because yeah, getting about the Canes, like when you mentioned like he had like a mark on his head, it's like you know what, just like came from the Bible because
Yeah.
he had a mark on him after he killed his brother Abel. So
Yeah. Oh yeah, about the names. I just so Habil is it means able, but in Arabic.
okay,
I'm an Arab. I'm a Muslim.
okay,
Uh, I thought I wanted to give them poetic names. My friends were like giving me really stupid sci-fi sounding names like Zaberg or I don't know, stuff that sounds made up from like an alien science fiction Star
yeah,
Wars shit. Um, I didn't like that. I wanted something poetic. And then someone eventually mentioned, "Hey, how about Cain and Abel?" And I thought, you know what, that's perfect because Cain
right,
kills Abel,
yep,
and it's poetic. And but I didn't want to name him Abel because, oh, I'm an Arab. I'm gonna name him the Arabic version. And
right.
so his name
There
is
you go.
Habil, and his villain is Cain. It's like, and now there's an extra dynamic of oppositeness. One of them's from an Arab, one of them's an English person, or
Okay,
maybe one of them is a Muslim, one of them is a Christian, or I don't know if Cain's a Christian. Maybe he's an atheist. Maybe he's a pagan. I don't know what he is,
right,
but one of them is an Arab, and they have like opposing names, but they're the same thing too. Opposites yet the same. You know what I'm saying?
right. Speaking with the gameplay, like what the main protagonist like, does he have like other than abilities? Does there like any like power ups that he can gain like just to get an extra boost, or is it just all about his abilities like powering himself up?
Actually, yes. You can get power ups in the game, but they're random. Every once in a while, an ammo crate. The ammo crates in my game they spawn randomly.
Uh-huh.
Um, not fully random. I decide the positions in advance, and then the algorithm just decides where to spawn them and when. Sometimes, every once in a while, on lower difficulties, every difficulty except the hardest one of them will
Uh-huh.
be a power up, which, for example, might give you a speed boost,
Right.
might give you infinite ammo, or might give you infinite of your punching abilities, stuff like that.
Well, that's cool. As far as like presentation goes, like you mentioned like cutscenes, like like the cutscenes that happen like between levels or just at random or
All right, so here's the deal. The game, there's a cut. Every boss fight has
uh-huh.
like a small cutscene just to introduce them.
Uh-huh.
In the first dimension, the desert world, the desert
Yeah.
dimension called Cultist Realm, it's a world that has two suns, and there's cultists who worship the two suns, and the whole world has
Uh-huh.
become a desert because of these two suns. Um, at, at the end level, you're on top of a pyramid, and you see
Right.
this like cultist guy. He in the cutscene, he executes a guy. He like commits a blood sacrifice, right? He uses his massive axe to behead someone,
Uh-huh.
and then he looks at you all menacingly, and then the fight starts. I like to give boss fights cutscenes like that, and also remember how I mentioned Cain and Abel earlier.
Yeah.
Every time they encounter, so far there's only once, but there's gonna be more later. They have like a little cutscene. Usually Cain gives a monologue or something before the actual fight starts, and then maybe there's a cutscene once it ends after like one of you after the boss fight is over. There's a cutscene where the events happen. In the first level, Dimensional Slaughter, you meet Cain. At the end
Uh-huh.
of it, he's you finally infiltrate the portal facility or whatever, the portal area, and then Cain appears. He's like, "You imposter, you stupid bitch! I'm gonna kill you." Uh, and
uh,
then he proceeds to kill you. And then by the end of it, if he actually just gets annoyed, and then he punches you, and you both use your electric fist ability on each other.
uh-huh.
You fist each other. Um, and it creates like a shockwave, which opens the portal, which sucks you both in, and that's how the game starts. So yeah, there's a little lore cutscene, but most of the game is focused on the gameplay.
Right. All right. Oh, speaking of this, what platforms do you plan to put this game on?
So currently it's on Steam on PC. You can also play it on the Steam Deck, but no other platforms yet. Hopefully in the future, I'd love to put it on the Nintendo Switch. If I can get it on, for example, the PlayStation or the Xbox, I'd love to do that. If I could get Xbox Game Pass, that'd be cool.
Right.
Yeah. So far it's just Steam.
All right.
Maybe even the Nintendo 3DS. If I can manage to do that, I would do that.
Okay. Usually I come up with a scenario like, say like this game, it does great, it does phenomenal. Like, do you ever feel like you want to do like expansions to it, like like extra levels to the expanded
100%.
game? Or
if Dimensional Slaughter becomes successful, I would love to make more levels. I'd like to make DLC levels, maybe or maybe just alternate modes. Actually, I'm already considering making alternate modes, maybe like an infinite randomizer mode. And other games that I want to make them have some sort of. A lot of them I want to have like some sort of connection to Dimensional Slaughter.
okay.
Currently, I'm developing a VR game on the side, I'm calling it Dimensional Daggers. It's a clone of another game called Devil Daggers, but in VR, and it's called Dimensional Daggers because it's related to Dimensional Slaughter in a way.
All right, that's
I'm
cool.
thinking maybe like every single game I'll have is dimensional something. Maybe I'll make a Souls game. Maybe it's Dimensional Souls. Maybe I'll make I don't know, a dimensional Minecraft-like game. Maybe I'll call it like Dimensional Survival or something.
Okay. Like has like a boss mode ever come across your as an idea, or is it just like probably like too many other games have probably use that mechanic?
What did you say? I didn't actually hear your.
Like a boss rush mode, like
boss rush.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Like say like you went through the whole game. Say hey, there's an ending, and say what? I feel like just like going a boss rush. It's like you see how how great I can take out these bosses in a certain amount of time.
It's a pretty good idea. I didn't think about that before. I was thinking of making a separate boss rush game, but I think just the boss rush mode could be pretty cool. Although here's the deal with Dimensional Slaughter, right? A lot of the bosses, they're essentially powered up versions of normal enemies, right? They're like a way to introduce you. They call this Executioner, which I was mentioning earlier, right?
Yeah.
Once you defeat the big boss, he starts appearing as a normal enemy, but like smaller. It's like a way to introduce you to their mechanics, because boss fights, I want them to have a bit more complex mechanics,
right?
But like bigger enemies. But it's hard to just put the bigger enemy into an arena, so it's better to have an actual boss fight design around them. And then once you're done with it, it's like drilled into your head how to defeat this enemy.
Right.
And they can start spawning them as smaller guys on their own.
All right. Of course, we need to get a little close, getting close to the end. But how was it like working with Steam?
Steam? Pain in the ass. It's not that hard, really. Actually, it just takes like it takes maybe a week to get used to it, understand everything fully, watch a bunch of YouTube tutorials. It just takes patience. But other than that, working with Steam is actually quite easy. If you want to request keys, you just press a few buttons, and they usually email you the keys within a few days. If you want to like add something to your page, it's quite easy. If you want to like change something, it's pretty easy. It also helps you with stuff like leaderboards. My game has leaderboards, which encourages replayability. You want to get better. You want to defeat the other players.
Right.
And Steam provides the leaderboard services for me, so I don't have to deal with any making an account stuff for the players. I don't have to make them create their new accounts. I don't have to get any internet middlemen or anything. I just use Steam directly. If they're logged in, it uses their account. It inputs them automatically into Steam's servers, database, whatnot. It's really easy. The hardest part about working with Steam is the promotional material.
Right.
On Steam, you got to give them like 20 images or something, each like cropped to like a specific pixel size. For like, let's say they're like, okay, for here's this little button over here, and then the big button that appears next to your page, or not button, the big image, and then there's like images that appear here, images there. They're like, okay, and they have really weird aspect ratios.
Yeah.
But it's not that hard. It just takes like, say if I want to change something, it maybe takes me like an hour to change all of them. But yeah, Steam is fine.
All right. Oh well, I mean, I mean, that's guess all the questions I have for you. Yeah,
Any
before
more?
we we'll head out, like for anybody out there, like I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the interview, if you enjoy this, be sure to drop a like, and also before you give your intro, thank Crown Peak and Clean Scoop for coming through with the questions in the comments. Yeah, we really appreciate that.
Do you want to ask for any more questions before we end?
Yeah, yeah, by all means, like anybody else have any more questions before we close this out?
I will give you guys 30 seconds to type in your questions. And I can't read them, so this guy's going to have to tell me.
Yeah, I can see it on my end if they're still around. So, but other than that, like, did you have like ever think about have like your own universe, like other than outside of Dimensional Slaughter, or you probably figures like, hey, I got another game idea. It's probably different from for what you've done before, because they ever crossed your mind?
I've considered making other more than considered making games in other universes and whatnot, but I think remember how I was mentioning Dimensional Daggers earlier?
Yeah.
So I think if I want to make other games, there's a lot of ideas that I have with this one universe that I can just use, for and like it'll have some connection, but it'll mostly be its own game entirely. But like it'll have somewhat somewhere in the lore. For example, other ideas I've had. For example, there's dimensions in my game, right? Each is like its own little world.
Yes.
Like for example, the desert dimension, the cultist realm. I could make like its own game that just takes place in that area. It doesn't have to be dimensional, but it'll be in the same technical universe.
Almost like a spin-off.
Yeah, just because that's just how I am. I just like doing things like that. Although I could totally just make games that are completely original, and I probably will at some point.
All right. Let's say Crown Peak said, I don't have any more questions. Bye.
Well, goodbye, Crown Peak. I'm gonna miss you.
Yeah. All right. I guess we don't have any more questions at the point. Yeah. Like I said, feel free to give your intros and tell everybody out there where they can find you at.
You can find me on Twitter at ManliestDev. You can find me on YouTube at ManliestDev. I have a Discord server, which is accessible either via my Twitter or my YouTube, usually in the descriptions for things. I'm very active there. If you ever want to talk to me, you can literally just talk to me there. I respond to almost everything. You can DM me. I respond. And you can find the game on Steam at Dimensional Slaughter.
All right, everyone. Yeah, like I said, like I mentioned, this is your boy Sinister. You can find all my social medias, like on Instagram, it's Sinister1019, and on Threads. On Twitter or X, it's Konshu19.
I'm never gonna call it X.
I know. I stick the same Twitter. But other than that, like I said, Bashir, like I said, it's been an honor, pleasure.
How'd you know my name?
I'm
just kidding. Continue.
But anyways, like I said, it's been an honor interviewing you. And like I said, folks,
I've had fun. I've had fun here. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Other than that, folks, this concludes the interview. Hope you all enjoy your day, your evening, and where you're at in the part of the world. See ya.
All right, it's not live anymore.
And it's about to